So here's an example of how you might use this. We've got Alex, Sam, and Laura, and they're making daisy chains. They want to make them the same length, and we want to know how short the shortest daisy chain would be. So they each have different length daisies. Um, how could they make them the same length? So Alex here has daisies that are 3 centimeters long. So as he starts to tie them together, he's getting multiples of 3, right? Sam has daisies that are 5 centimeters long. So as she ties them together, she's getting multiples of 5, right? And then Laura has daisies of 6 centimeters long. So she's getting multiples of 6. So to find the shortest length that they could use, the shortest length of their daisy chain, we take the multiples of each and find the lowest common one, right? So 30 centimeters is the lowest common multiple, the shortest daisy chain that they could make. So you can compare more than two numbers, right? You can compare as many numbers as you want or as you need to when you're doing these problems. So here's another question. Today, both the volleyball team and the basketball team had games. The volleyball team plays every 6 days, and the basketball team plays every 8 days. When will both teams have games on the same day again? So let's take a minute or 2 minutes, however many you need. Pause the video and try and work this out. We want to know when both teams will have games on the same day again. Okay, so to work this problem out, again, we're going to want to find multiples of 6 and multiples of 8, right? Those are our two base numbers. So let's start with 8. The first three multiples of 8 are 8, 16, and 24. And if we use our divisibility rules, right, 8 is not divisible by 6, 16 is also not divisible by 6, 24 is though. So if we look at our multiples of 6, we've got 6, 12, 18, and 24. So the answer is in 24 days, the teams will have a game on the same day again, right? It'll take 24 more days. This is the lowest common multiple. So once you find it, right, you don't need to do any more. You can also just start by doing 8 times 1 is 8, 6 times 1 is 6, and then do 8 times 2 is 16, 6 times 2 is 12. So you don't need to write out a big list of this and then a big list of this. You might just want to start by doing the first multiple, the second multiple, the third multiple for both. And eventually you will find the lowest common multiple between the two. So we've learned lowest common multiple, right? That's what this stands for, lowest common multiple. We learn highest common factor. When we see a question, how do we distinguish between the two? Sometimes it can be hard. There's lots of words and information in these questions. So I want to give you some strategies to help you distinguish between them. And I want you to be able to look at a problem, think about it, and pick apart the information that you have and what you need to figure out, and then use the strategies that you know. So let's think about some keywords when we're thinking about lowest common multiple and highest common factor. So in a problem where we are asked for the lowest common multiple, what are some keywords we might see? And then conversely, what are some keywords for highest common factor? So I would like you to think back to some of the problems we've had. Think about words that appear in each of those questions that are unique to those questions. So let's take a minute or two and talk to someone next to you. Let's start with the lowest common factor, and then take another minute or two and do lowest common multiple. Then take another minute or two and do highest common factor. Get words that appear in these questions that are unique to lowest common multiple, and then words that are unique to highest common factor. See if we can find some keywords. Okay, so I've created two very short lists. These are not exhaustive. There are lots of words, keywords that you might find for both of these, but these are just to give you some ideas. So for lowest common multiple, you will often see words like smallest, first, or fewest. And these words all correspond with lowest, right? We're looking for the lowest multiple of at least two numbers. So you're going to find these small words. When we think about the highest common factor, we often see words like largest, longest, or maximum because we're looking for the biggest possible factor between at least two different things. However, you don't always see words like this in these problems. So these are good hints to find, but you won't always see them. You might have other words in your list as well. So for example, here is another question. Andeep is making bracelets. He wants each one to be the same. He has 24 red beads, 32 yellow beads, and 50 white beads. To work this out, I need to find the lowest common multiple, is what Andeep is saying. Is that true? All right. So we don't have any of our keywords here. Does Andeep need to use the lowest common multiple or the highest common factor? Is what he says true? Take a moment, discuss with someone next to you, and then I'll talk about it. So, in this case, he's got 24 red beads, 32 yellow beads, and 50 white beads. And he wants to make each one the same. He needs to work out the highest common factor, right? Because the lowest common multiple would mean increasing the number of beads, right? He needs to split them into smaller groups. So in order to make each one the same, he has to split these down. He doesn't have more than this. He can't increase the number of beads that he has. So he has to split them apart. So he's making them smaller, right? So that would mean he needs to use the highest common factor, splitting them into smaller groups. So yeah, this one's a little tricky. It doesn't have our keywords, but you have to think about, do we need to split our things into groups that are smaller than our base number, or are we making multiples that are bigger? So with that in mind, what is a simple question we can ask that will help us determine whether we are looking for the highest common factor or the lowest common multiple? I want you to talk to someone next to you and try and come up with a question or two questions that can help us determine whether we're looking for the highest common factor or the lowest common multiple. So you're like creating your own test for when you look at a question, creating your own question for it to help you figure it out. Let's take a second and do that. So the question that I came up with is this. Is the answer that we need bigger than our base numbers? If it is, that will be the lowest common multiple, right? Is the answer that we need going to be smaller than our base numbers? That would be the highest common factor. The only time these don't work is if the answer is the same, right, as one of our base numbers. But still, these are really good questions to ask, and will give you hints as to what type of question you are looking at. So I'm going to throw some questions up on the screen here, and I would like you to decide if you would be finding the highest common factor or the lowest common multiple in each of the following. So I will read out each of the questions, and then I'd like you to take a couple moments to use your skills and strategies that you've learned to figure out, do you need highest common factor or the lowest common multiple? So A, two people race up some steps. One goes up 2 at a time, and the other 3 at a time. Which is the first step they both step on? Well, that's A. B is Aisha is organizing a charity quiz. She either has 84 or 90 people attending. What is the largest number of people in each team? All teams must be the same size. C. Granddad has baked a cake. His grandchildren are coming to visit. It could be 3, 5, or all 6. What is the smallest number of pieces he can cut the cake into so that each get the same amount of cake? So, take a minute or two, use your questions and your tests to figure out what you need to find for each of these questions. Highest common factor or lowest common multiple. Pause the video, go ahead and do that. Okay, so for A, 2 people race up some steps. One goes up 2 at a time and the other at 3 at a time. Which is the first step they both step on? This will be the lowest common multiple, right? Our answer will be bigger than our base numbers. So we need to find multiples, bigger numbers than our base. B. Aisha is organizing a charity quiz. She either has 84 or 90 people attending. What is the largest number of people in each team? They all must be the same size. This would be the highest common factor, right? We've got a keyword here, largest number. That's one of our highest common factor keywords. And the answer is going to be smaller than these numbers, so it will be highest common factor. C. Granddad has baked a cake. His grandchildren are coming to visit. Could be 3, 5, or 6 of them. What is the smallest number of pieces he can cut the cake into so they each get the same amount of cake? That'll be lowest common multiple, right? Smallest, that's a lowest common multiple keyword. And our answer will be bigger, right, than our base numbers. So that means it has to be the lowest common multiple. So today, as you look at your worksheet and your homework, keep these tests in mind. Are you looking for something bigger than your base numbers? That means it's the lowest common multiple. Are you looking for something smaller than your base numbers? That means it's the highest common factor. So do your best to work out the questions on the sheet. And I am really excited to see all of you guys soon. All right. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.